happening.
Okay, ready. We usually give everyone one more minute just so you get the chime of the 2 o'clock and then we get going. All righty. This is the time I say every month, I'm going to put music on next month that I never do it. Here we go. Add it to the list of things I say every month.
That would be fun. Good call.
That was like the awkward. All right. Oh, we have a good bunch. I think we can kick this off. And if anyone comes in late, well, they'll just listen to the recording, right? So thank you everyone for being here today. Welcome to our January. So new year, new me, learning about all things marketing, if that was your resolution this year. And today we're talking about something that is probably near and dear to all of our hearts, which is in-person events. We had a little hiatus during this 2020 thing that happened. Nothing, major or global or anything life-changing like that, but we had a little break. And now we're back and we're here to talk about it today because I remember people were like, in-person events are dead, they're never coming back. And well, look at us now. So I think it's an important topic for all of us, especially as event season is right around the corner. Budget season is probably finishing up, but probably still lingering at the same time. So I think this is the perfect time to talk with some of our special guests today. We have Jeremy, Tiffany, and Angie with us. So they are the experts. I'm just here to help the convo along. So Jeremy, you're next to me. So if you don't mind starting us off.
Great. First off, well, thanks for having us with you. It's an exciting day. I'm Jeremy Pritchard, Director of Sales and Marketing for Treno's, and look forward to joining the conversation here real soon.
Angie, if we're going to go,
Sure.
clockwise.
Hi, everyone. My name is Angie Ryan. I most recently was Director of Marketing at Cavallo, and I'm currently looking for a new role. So if you hear of anything in the marketing space within the partner channel, let me know. Yeah, I'm excited to be here and talk all things events today.
And last but definitely not least, Tiffany.
Oh, thanks. And Angie, somebody better snatch her up quick. She's a gold mine. Definitely.
We're going to put her... We'll put your LinkedIn in the chat after.
Oh, good idea. Good call.
That's great.
Thanks, Tim.
My name's Tiffany Allen. I manage the partner program at QuickTag by Paymerang. I've been in the dynamic space for about 16 years, and events are by far my favorite part of my job. So I really appreciated the invite to today's session.
We are happy you accepted because we're always looking for panelists with different expertise and stuff. So yes, thank you everyone. So I am going to start off with the question that is everyone's favorite and worst thing about events, the giveaway. We all think that like other departments are like, oh, well, what are we giving away? You're like, there's so much more to events than that. But let's pull our Seinfeld, air our grievances. What was your favorite, worst Chotsky in the chat, please? I think we all have a story. So Tiffany, why don't you start us off? What was one of your favorite giveaways from an event?
This topic I absolutely love and adore. My favorite is something that is consumable right then and there. So Angie, that's what I was saying. I can't go dig the right pin up out of my desk. I am the fan of the booth that's giving away coffee or a beer, absolutely, a cupcake or a cookie. But the reality is that might be outside of some people's budget. So after that, I look to something that's going to get people to stop. Obviously, you're going to stop to get the beer, the coffee, or the cookie. But I think about things that makes people stop and want. And Cavallo, Angie, you guys have done a great job in years past with your t-shirts, right? They really draw people in. So I've kind of morphed that into like, it could be a sticker, right? So you go really low budget, a hat or a t-shirt, but something funny. Like I love month end. My latest one is somebody's going to steal it is I keep hearing invoices versus voices, right? My favorite one by far, but I get axed by the branding police is freak in the sheets for, you know, all of our accountants that love Excel, but branding smacks me around on that one.
I love a good punny, and you know, I would put that sticker on my laptop, but you know, at the
Oh,
same
yeah.
time, I can see how some like people might be like, yeah, like
Maybe not.
Excel. Maybe what if you put Excel in front of the sheet, then that would work.
I like it. We'll brainstorm it for sure.
Okay, sounds good. Jeremy, why don't you tell us about some of your favorites? And I expect to see them in the chat. Come on, people, favorite
Good point.
Hotskis. This is your chance.
I guess Tiffany, I kind of think alike. I want something that's going to stop people in their tracks and, you know, get a moment to talk with them. And you mentioned COVID. So one of the things I really liked was hand sanitizer, just a pump. Everybody's going around shaking hands and not really wanting to. And so anytime you have a hand sanitizer pump, that's a good idea. Or for me, I have a personal rule to never turn down breath help. Somebody offers me a stick of gum. I don't know if they think my breath stinks or not, but I'm going to take it. So mints and those kinds of things that people can consume on the spot, I think are really, really not just inexpensive, but effective.
I am totally gonna use that as a rule of thumb. I never turn down breath help. You know,
A rule we should
I
all
live.
live by. Yeah,
Hey,
all
I
of us.
agree.
You have made a mark on my life now. And I'm also with Tiffany. Nothing like a good saying. Before we started, I was talking about this like a glass holder that I had for like probably 10 years that said I'm a genius. I'm like, someone's got to tell me. So any of those kinds of things, I'm a big fan of luggage tags. Yeah, that's always handy. We did those one year, and the number of people who just came by and was like, ooh, and like kind of sneak it off, and you're like, hey, you don't get away without a scan. But yeah, those are all good ones. Keep them coming, please. And some of the ones that you're less cool. I'm sure there's a couple faux pas that you've seen over the years as well. So keep that chat going. I know I do this every month and be like, come on, chat people. This is really my 2024 resolution. So moving on, Tiffany, how many events do you typically do in a year?
So
One, two, 20?
well, it's funny. I looked it up for you when you posed the question because I was like, gosh, it felt like so many. So last year we did 10. You know, the three biggies, I would say. And then we participated in a lot of different partner and other ISV, more strategic partnership events. And I would say, you know, it'll be great because we'll get into the statistics of it and, you know, why we decide to go where we go. I will say 10 maybe was a few too many, and we'll likely scale that back a tad this year. I think we went with an all-in approach last year, and every once in a while you've got to do that. I think coming out of COVID, it was the right choice to make at the time. We need to be a little bit more discerning, I think, going forward.
Yeah, I think we forgot, or we were so excited to like get out there and see people again and shake hands-ish, you know, with some good hand sanitizer. But yeah, no, they're a lot of work, and I think we forget how much work goes into them and how many, when you say 10, that's like once a month you are at an event, so that's tiring. So I guess that follows well into the next question is about how much budget do you dedicate to each of these events? We're talking about time and effort, and all that equals money in the end. So Angie, how do you look at that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say, you know, overall budgeting wise at the companies I've been at, typically allocate about anywhere from 10 to 20% for events, depending on what your goals are and really what you're aiming for. But they are a great way to, drive new leads, new business, and really get some solid sales going. So I would say on average, when I have really budgeted, ends up being about 15% of the overall marketing budget. So I'm not sure how that aligns with yours, Tiffany or Jeremy, and how much you guys dedicate, but I crunched some numbers recently and I was like, it lands around 15% typically.
Well, I think that shows that you can be all in, but you also have to look at it. How does it work in the overall marketing budget of things? Because there's a lot of other things that go along with just the event itself. So I think 15% makes sense from places I've worked at in the past. And how far in advance do you start planning? We're already talking about the big three, and it's January. Where do you guys usually start beforehand? So Tiffany, what about you guys?
I would say it's definitely a good 4 to 6 months. I mean, obviously on the budgeting side of things, a lot of our events tend to fall in Q4, and we already have those in mind. And we really do try and think, holistically about the year, whatever message it is that we're trying to put out. So a lot of that really does have to start all the way at 10 months in advance. When we're looking at things like swag, what we want to purchase for the year. And yes, we want to change things up as we go to events, but we also want to be known as, hey, this is more memorable. This is what we can expect, from QuickTag, from Paymerang as we're coming into it. The larger events though, I mean, I would say, that 4 to 6 month window is crucial, your booth planning, your staffing of it. So some of the smaller partner events, that's what I love and appreciate. Those can be a little bit down and dirty, and, you can change things up and create maybe a new fresh piece of content for it. Not quite as much pressure as some of the larger events. So many parts and pieces moving within those that, that complexity really does require somebody dedicated to it. We've got a great marketing team here on our side. So I really reap the benefits of kind of just coming in and like some idea generation and getting have fun in the booth. So I give huge props to the Angies of the world that are navigating all the details to make the event go off seamlessly.
And I think 4 or 6 months, people are probably, whoa, but you don't realize how before you know it, it's the week before the event, and the collateral, the strategy when you're talking about what do you want to look like, how do you want to be different. You can't just pick up swag the week before, or like people are booked out months in advance for travel. Don't get me started on hotel rooms and all that stuff, but
well, and one of the huge ones is like just adhering to that each conference's schedules, right? So think about booth graphics, getting those approved, getting that sent out, and your internal team designing it, getting buy-off from, your sales and marketing group. And then ultimately, hey, this is the deliverable, and having it printed, built, shipped. Oh.
But then how satisfying is it when you're there and you're like, it's all in front of you and it went well. And exactly, I think it's the yin and the yang of event planning. It's all the minute details that make all the difference in the end. But having that runway so that something's going to happen, something's going to go wrong, at least you have that window to adjust and kind of pivot maybe if something need be. And Angie, what about you? When do you start planning events usually?
Yeah, I would say along those same lines, like a year in advance for sure, when you're trying to figure out your sponsorships and get those locked in. I mean, as you guys know, at a lot of the shows, when you're there, you're asked to pre-book for the following year. And typically you'll get a discount depending on the show if you pre-book, which is, if you know you're going to be there anyway, you might as well, yes, get that done, or whoever is you're sending, if you're not going yourself, make sure they know and have that on their schedule. Get someone there, usually get an allotted time, depending on your level. So for sure, a year out for any of those, like major sponsorships, booth space. But then 4 to 6 months is definitely in alignment too with what I have done. And, I think I saw chats from Elizabeth on the call. She's event manager at Cavalo. So she does an excellent job of getting all the details figured out. And there's usually so many forms you have to fill out, and you have to order things by a certain date. And if you don't hit those dates, you're going to pay more. So, if you are the person that has to submit all of those detailed things, like getting that in your calendar or in a project management tool right away, then you don't miss deadlines. But then really like 2 to 3 months out, really honing in on having those meetings with the core people attending, having a shared document. We found that very helpful. I've used one like that for many years, where you kind of show, whether it's a slide deck or Word doc, something like that, where you've got everything detailed out. Here's where you need to be. Here are the floor times, you name it. And then you even put in there, what are you sending to the booth? What do they need to bring with? What should they wear? All of that detailed planning is so helpful to have something that you share with your team that's going, and then they know what to expect. And we typically have a call prior, get everybody excited, make sure you answer any questions for the staff that is attending too. And then, on the marketing side, planning out, what are you going to have? Are you going to have a piece that people can download? Are you going to have a QR code they can scan with an ebook or something brand new, like Tiffany was mentioning? You need time to create all of that and get it designed and get it, whether it's on a postcard or on a banner. So definitely, the detailed planning a lot closer, but that's really what we go with too.
So many good tips on how to save money. Yes, if you miss one of those deadlines, they make sure to add 20% to whatever a chair costs to rent for a couple of days. And you're like, how much? I can buy that at IKEA. And then you I think we've all been there and have to deal with that. So having someone who's super organized, who's able to follow all those dates, that really helps. And yeah, if you can book a year in advance, if you already know it's something that's always in your plans and stuff like that, saving that little bit of money, that could be half another event somewhere along the line, like when you're talking about the big ones. So I think that's super important. I love the fact that you brought up what people wear in booths too. We've gotten a little cash over the years as well. Like no Crocs in the booth space. Maybe that's a very very controversial comment to make that's now on video, but I think that also plays into the whole overall experience. What do you want to perceive your brand as when you're going into your space, and what kind of look and feel do you want? Like if you're having a summertime fiesta, maybe Crocs makes sense, but maybe not at the same time. I'm digging myself into a bigger hole. So I'm going to leave the Croc situation right there. But yeah, I think just, giving people a little bit of guidelines and stuff like that, what times they have to be there. Yeah, some people do get carried away or get like it's important that people are in the booth at the time as well. So maybe it's all this PTSD coming back, Angie, but I fully agree with all the tips that you're talking about here. And Tiffany, you were talking about you went to maybe too many events last year when you went all in. So how do you prioritize which ones you go to and which ones to attend in future years?
It's definitely about the metrics, right? We really need to be able to, pencil it out and to ensure that there was ROI attributed to the event. But I will say, I think that we've gotten much more creative in the way that we evaluate our events, especially when they are partner specific events. We do the big Dynamics events and Dynamics Con directions and that. And that's fantastic because there's so many end users there and, the volume of people. But when we go to the smaller partner events, I really look at not just the leads that we generate at the event, but the number of referrals that come from that partner post-event. Because I think oftentimes, depending on, maybe the experience of somebody that you have working your booth. They're thinking all about the end user, selling my product at that moment versus the long game. And when you're at a partner event such as, like Cavallo, they're an ISV, so that's a very strategic event for us. So it is as important for us to meet that end user, Dynamics user, as it is for us to talk to additional consultants, pre-sales, solutions engineers. You see all of them and find all of them at a specific partner event. So we look not only at the lead generation, our conversion to opportunity, obviously our close won, close lost, but we look and layer in partner referrals post events and attribute that directly to the cost and the expense of the event to help justify and or obviously not justify going back in a future, in the future. So I think, obviously, we perform so much better when it is a referral by a partner. So I think it's just, it's an absolute must have. We can't be as black and white as our CRM is sometimes. Layer that additional intelligence in, and I think we can find and pencil out a lot more ROIs, and or even, disclude potentially an event as well.
Yeah. No, I think we so get focused on the number of scans, but you're bringing up such a good point of, okay, the quality of the scans. It's one thing to have a good Chotsky and you scanned 1 million people, but if they're all junk, well, you're not further ahead at the end of the day either. So I think that especially in the channel where partner to partner relationships is such a big part of it, and that referral piece is so important, sometimes harder to qualify, and that's for another CMA chat. But I think that's a great point that we shouldn't forget. Jeremy, how about you? How do you pick which events you're going to?
Well, it all comes down to ROI. And like Tiffany said, there's a lot of ways to measure ROI. And depending on, what your business is, you might be looking for different types of things. Someone like Trendox, who is a smaller player, kind of newer to the scene, we might take advantage of things that maybe others might not, that are more established, like Cavallo or what. So whether it's the number of leads or the number of referrals from partners, obviously we're looking to maximize our dollars and make sure that we make the most of that. Clearly, if we gain new business while we're there, that's the ultimate goal, but it's not the only goal. Getting connected, finding a seat at the table, having your brand presence, become a household name. Those are all things that we're looking to get out of wherever we go to.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's always the conversation too, and we'll talk about ROI later, but getting your name out there and what does that brand presence actually own, or what's it worth to the company, and getting a seat at the table. And any time that you can have a cocktail with someone, alcoholic or not, coffee, that building that relationship, you don't realize how much it's valued and how important it is. And at these events, it's one of the best places that everyone's kind of together and you can do it. So
Yeah.
totally get that. So now I'm going to stop for a quick commercial break. I want to say thank you to the Partner Marketing Group. They help us keep the lights on here. And I was a big fan before even I had to do this gig. The Benchmark and Trends book, honestly, might be a bit of a control freak, but I love to know like how I'm doing against others in the industry, and just to kind of have a better idea. You can't tell your boss like, hey, watch this hour-long CMA chat where they have like other people saying that this sucks or this is the way to go. This will give you that option just to like snag a page, show it to them where you fit in the industry. I think it's a great resource for that. And I have maybe used it in the past to get more budget, or when we're talking about benchmarking on how much we use something, or a tool that we're not using, or a tactic that we're not using, but everyone else in the industry is using. I'm a big fan. So please fill out the form without actually you guys, typing it in. The more names they have, the more questions that get filled out, the better it is for everyone. So if you haven't done it yet, shame on you. Go do it after the call, you know, so you're still listening to us. But Michelle just put it in the chat. So thank you again to the partner marketing group for keeping our lights on. So now back to our regular scheduled program. I guess people don't know about those anymore. Like my son has no idea what a commercial is. So crazy. Kids these days, they don't know what they're missing. Such a hard life we had. Anyhow, so what type of activities do you usually plan pre and post event? We talked about the preparation side, but what kind of tactics do you do to gear people up for this? So Jeremy, I'm going to pass it back to you.
Okay, well, I believe you tend to get, out of things what you put into them. So the notion of 4 to 6 months ahead, to some that might seem like a long time, but honestly, when you're talking about lining up meetings and making sure that your time there is going to be well spent as much as possible, you plan your work and work your plan. So highlight the types of people that you want to meet, highlight the named people that you want to schedule meetings with ahead of time, connect on LinkedIn, phone calls, emails, all that stuff. And then, of course, when you're there, then it's just a matter of working your plan. So you've got your daily schedule, where you're going to be for your trainings or your speaking sessions or what. But you've got obviously FaceTime with the people that you're there to meet, and that's what's most important. And then on the back end, once you've done that, make sure that you're staying in touch, following up, specifically, mentioning, hey, I remember we talked about this. Is this still a need, or anything that you can do to kind of personalize those interactions? I found to be very effective.
Yeah, I think the whole point of you get what you get out of it, and like putting in the time and effort before and planning, you're investing so much time, energy, resources into this. Having a good plan when you're there of who, what, when, where. You don't want people to just kind of be floundering around. I think that's super important. Other things like emails and like making sure people know that you're going to be there and calling out like, hey, come find me here. If anyone has cool ways not to be in the noise, please put it in the chat. I think that's something that we are always bombarded with a week before one of those events is, oh yeah, like, but you scan for it because sometimes they're big calls and you don't know where someone is. So just having that number and you can find them after is key to all of that. So plan accordingly and not just, booking people for things. And what are some of the best practices that you try to do before, during, afterwards? Kind of like the same the question before about planning, but what are some things that are must have that you would die by your heel on that have to get done? So Tiffany, what about you?
I'm going to give kind of a new one that we did this past year that I think worked exceptionally well. And we're obviously living in a world of socials. That's what our kids and your son definitely does get, right? We obviously took our entire schedule of, the people that were going to be there, and we gave that to our social media gal. And she, for those that are total novices and don't post anything, she literally gave them, this is what I want you to capture. I want video from you. I want this type of video. I want a couple photos from this party. And she literally gave them the caption, the description, what to do, when she wanted them to do it. And I would say we probably had about a 85% success rate in following her schedule. And it was tremendous. We not only had a huge presence at the show, but we had a huge presence online, because the reality is our entire community does not make it to the show. And we got a lot of great feedback about how they felt like they were a part of what was going on. And I do also really love and appreciate what you shared about like location. One thing I've done, I'm not afraid of the socials. So it was great to see the rest of our team fully engaged based on them not having, what do I do? What do I say? Like, beautiful. Put it into play for every single person. I had a little bit more leeway because she knows that's what I do. But one thing I love to do is remember, we are at a social event. You're not in front of your desk or your computer answering your regular emails. So you maybe are on your socials a little bit more. I would always message in front of the exact room that I'm in. I'm in this room, this morning at this time. Conferences get busy and crazy, and you think you're going to go to one session and a meeting goes late or whatever, and you don't remember. So keep popping that in front of them. This is, LinkedIn is a really fun way for us to remain engaged in this channel. And I think a lot of people gravitate toward it because it is just that. It's fun and it's little snippets of content. So I would say challenge yourself to step outside of the norm with your entire team on the LinkedIn platform at a minimum. I'm not much of a tweeter. I need to get better at that, but both, if you can, really just push yourself.
I like that. And I like that you kind of giving like baby steps to those who aren't used to it, because that can be intimidating too. Like some people have no idea this is our day-to-day, but it doesn't mean that it's everybody's day-to-day of coming up with something clever or interesting or insightful about that. So if you can just, even if they wordsmith it to their own words after, but it's less scary when they already have a sentence written out for them. So
100%. Our solutions engineer is snapping a pic of him and one of our customers with like one little blurb. He was so damn proud of himself. We were all proud of him too. I mean, and it's a different perspective, and people are online going, wait a minute, that's, this, my solutions engineer. So, I would just say push yourself. I think one thing we did different as well this year, post event, was I think a lot of people gravitate toward, I had a conversation with this person, I'm going to follow up with that. And maybe not the larger events, our smaller partner events. People trying to take that are at the show ownership of that. Remember what works well in your business. A lot of us have, SDRs and teams to call. Give all the leads to them. That's what they do. Don't forget, the people that are at the shows have just been at the show for days. They've been traveling back. Their inbox is full. Their calendar is booked because the SDR is now booked appointments, because their calendar's been scheduled. Don't forget to do what works. Don't let things be cherry picked. Send the hot into that SDR, and they will work better magic than it will be going back to the sales guy that had a great conversation, but he has 18,000 other things to get done between now and the first time he picks up the phone to dial.
Oh, so important. We forget that post that week after of like, okay, what day of the week is this? Where was I? Which plane was I on? It is a lot, and we forget that getting back into it, and you want to capture them right away as well. So great tips there. And what about you, Angie? What are some of your best practices when you're looking at events?
Sure. I would say, in addition to what's already been shared, another good one, a tip would be if you have something like a best practice guide or a ebook or something you've created that's more of a thought leadership piece, because not everyone that visits your booth or goes to your sessions is really ready to have a conversation with you or your team. So maybe you don't get their badge scanned, or they don't actually want to talk to you right away. Having something they can download and just give up their email address for now, then they're in your system, you capture them, they're interested in at least your thought leadership, right? Maybe they're still figuring out if they need or want your software. But I think that's a good tip is, if you don't have a piece, like think about what one could be, what you're really good at, and what you could write about. And then, if you hopefully have a writer on staff, if not, have someone else write and edit and create one. They're pretty simple to do and design, and then put it up on a landing page and share out that QR code. Like if you're speaking at a session, have it up on your slides, have it at the beginning and the end, hand out little postcards with that QR code on it, or the URL. Either way, make a vanity URL, so make it really nice and short. And then afterwards, promote that same offer in your email. So any of your follow-up emails, if someone, you really want them to talk to you, you want them to book a call or a meeting, but if they're not ready yet, say, hey, we have this great piece of content for you to read and download. So I think that's also a nice tip, because you still get people engaged with you and your brand, and we know that majority of folks are going to take a long time, right, to convert. So you have to get in front of them and touch them multiple times. And that's just such a good way to do it. You could even promote it on your social account in advance, or promote that you're going to have this great best practice guide, whatever it may be, at your booth, right? So it's something to just kind of show you are a thought leader in the space. I think that's definitely something, a tip. And then another tip I was thinking about too was, a lot of these shows, there's a lot of evening events and activities and socials. So depending on what your budget looks like, evaluating those and seeing if you want to co-sponsor one, or you want to partner up with another ISV or VAR and host something in the evenings, because you can capture more names, you can network more. They've been really beneficial for us in the past. Or holding your own, which is a little more challenging, obviously, more costly, but depending on if you want to do a specific dinner or some type of social event, those are a great way too. If the expo hall is busy, there's lots going on. If you can have something that you're known for, there's some great parties in the evening at Summit, for example, right? Everybody knows every year XYZ party is happening. So, but you have to scan your badge to get in, right? So even though those names aren't as like hot of leads, you're still getting a nice list of folks that have attended those.
Yeah. And
Angie,
then
you made me think of something that we've been doing that works really well. I love the co-sponsored events. I love going to the big parties. It's a great idea, a great way to keep costs down. Something we've been doing is, our partners are at these events, and we know that they are hosting, often customer dinners. Hey, would you like a co-sponsor? And then we just help offset some of their costs for hosting their customers to a dinner. And then you're in a really intimate setting, that's maybe 5 of their customers, the partner, and you. This past at Summit this past year, we had a partner that 2 of his customers were 2 of our customers that were there. So it was like a mutual customer dinner, and then we met 2 new sets of users from that partner. And it's just a really easy way to, obviously, for it to be much more intimate. The dialogue can, obviously skew every direction, and ultimately, a better connection, hopefully post show, than a badge scan. So love that idea. Good call.
Yeah, and I think we have to balance too. There's a lot, like you said, there's a lot of noise around you, and there's a lot of different types of events. So you have to, as marketers, know your audience, like have different ways to reach different types of people or different groups of people. Not everyone is into the big party, and not everyone's into a long, intimate dinner. So I think by having that balance of both, you kind of get a little bit of everything. And I do like your idea of having that big book or whatever, or ebook of something or other, because that's where the 6 months comes in, because it's a heavy lift. But I think what it does also is it allows people, so you have content before, you can share it with them after, and it lives on. It's not like you can only use it at that event, and we're always looking for content that we can create that's kind of evergreen and thought leadership. So that's a good excuse to get everyone ready for a specific date and get it published and live, or else those things can drag at some companies in the past. So I think those are all fabulous things to keep in mind. Moving on, let's go back to ROI. We were talking about it's expensive, like it takes a lot of time and effort. So what type of events do you see your best ROI? Do you see more as industry specific ones or vendor specific? I know you guys are a little bit different from the ISV world, but where do you guys see the most bang for your buck? I hate using that line. I don't know why I said it, but where do you see the most engagement from people? Jeremy, why don't you kick us off?
Sure. I think, anytime you can be a bigger fish in a smaller pond, that's a good thing. So for us, we would try to avoid situations where there's, 8,000 other people that we're competing for time with, and want to get those situations where it's more manageable. So a lot of times those two tend to be industry specific and industry focused, where you have, certain user groups. Maybe it can be ERP specific or whatnot, but those are the situations that we tend to have more success in. However, that being said, social media is a huge equalizer. So I echo what Tiffany was saying earlier about that, and how that's really something that everybody with every budget level should be doing, because to those people that are not at the show, which a lot of times is just as many as are at the show, you're marketing to them too, and they want to know, okay, well, this is a little bit about the team that I want to engage with. These are the kinds of things that they're doing. I can see they're actually real people, and they are smiling and laughing, and right. And so, online, that's an equalizer for a smaller company to let you compete with anyone with any budget size, because it's more of an organic situation. And a lot of times big budgets don't really happen to be as successful as just somebody that's kind of clever, and instantly that little comment goes viral. So those are the kind of things that we would try to do.
Oh, that's cool. And Tiffany, where do you see, you go to a lot of different events, where do you see your ROI coming in?
So I mean, we definitely we have a lot of different metrics that we'll judge there. Obviously, leads, conversion is one, but we also are definitely, judging our events on the opportunity to meet new partners. So for us as an ISV, it's just as important to continue to, maintain and maximize relationships with those existing partners. Again, how can we get more referrals out of the existing ones that we have? We're constantly on the hunt for those new partners, ones that we have not engaged yet, ones that we haven't been able to crack open really well. So we do definitely gauge it, not just based on the raw, this is how many deals we close. We are also gauging it on the opportunities that are being presented to us through the partner channel, for sure. So I would say, obviously me coming with a partner background into the marketing aspect of it, we're definitely skewing, our results, looking at results in both veins for sure.
Well, I think like life, it's all about balance and trying to find that, tipping point between the two of them and matching those up with you. So I totally get it. And what are some of the kind of metrics that you look post-event? Angie, how about you kick us off there?
Sure, there are so many. I wrote a list, but it's kind of long, so
That's
I'll just
okay.
name a few.
We still got 15
I mean,
minutes. We got 15 minutes.
Okay, everything from, what is the list size? Did you get a list, a pre-show list, post-show list? So from any of just basically your new contacts. Then to your leads, as Tiffany mentioned, and the different types of leads, right? Do you have MQLs? Are they further along? Are they more SQLs? It really depends, right? Did you have a good, solid conversation with someone? They already maybe had a demo at the booth, all the way to opportunities, and can you tie closed sales back to it? So all these different metrics, right? Tracking all of those in your systems. And then, new partnerships is something I wrote down too, like opportunities that maybe haven't closed yet, but you've had great conversations and you've opened some new doors, tracking all of that. And then social reach, what happened online? How did your posts perform? And your website, take a look at that, especially if you have landing pages that you're driving traffic to, or you have those offers and downloadable content, checking to see how many conversions did you have on the things you promoted. Those are a few of them, right? From everything from the MQL, SQL side over to the web and social metrics. Those are the ones that came to mind for me.
No, that's a good list. And I think it's also fun that we're like, okay, we can't just look at what happens at the show anymore. You're talking about social reach. Tiffany, you mentioned like, okay, get everyone out there. It's become a huge part of it as well. So I'm glad you're including those in your metrics as well. So Jeremy, do you have any to add to that list? That was a pretty exhaustive list. So I wouldn't be shy.
That was a great list, and actually mirrored kind of what I had in mind too. That the one thing I would add to that is just the relationships, with partners. And it's one thing to have a relationship on paper, and it's kind of a top to top situation, but it's a totally different thing to build relationships at every level of the organization. And so being able to meet the people that are going to be talking to clients, and spend some time with them That's really not necessarily a numbers game, but it's more quality over quantity. So that's something else I would add to that is the levels of relationships that you're able to build, across different partnerships.
Someone came and knocked on my door right as we were talking. My apologies. It's always a Russian roulette on these things. I'm like, are we going to make it through or not?
I thought
So
I
no,
just really had excited you and you didn't know what to say. So I thought, oh,
I
that's
was
great.
like, it takes a
I've
lot for me to
thrown
be
a
speechless.
I've thrown a few treats while we've been on the call. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, come on, dog. Like, please, honey, please. All right. Well, Tiffany, you talked a lot about metrics before. Do you have any last ones to add to that? Because Mila was very excited about, hearing about ROIs.
I will say this is why Angie is in the role that she's been in, and somebody's going to snatch her up real quick because I'm sure our marketing department is tracking all those things too. I don't always hear about that, so I'm impressed. Bravo. I know the socials are, but like the content that gets engaged, I love that. I mean, that's why we join these calls. I'm learning from you guys here for sure. The metrics that I track for sure, I think are a little bit more traditional or non-traditional on the partner side. So, I love that element of it, but I mean, I'm just soaking this in and I'm going to ask my marketing team, how some of our different content definitely, performed post-event after this call for sure.
Every
I
month,
think
I'm like, oh, I can't write at the same time, but I'm always impressed on what I learn, even like the little nuggets and stuff like that. It's always a lot of fun, these calls.
It is.
Oh,
I
yeah,
will
no,
add really quick.
oh,
One thing that we started doing too is having each person that attends set their own goals. So we of course have our goals, what we want to happen, right, from the sales and marketing perspective, but those are more the company goals. But then having each person, and it's on a shared spreadsheet, so you get to see what everyone puts in, and then also, in those pre-conference calls, sharing it out loud too, and committing to, hey, I'm gonna book 8 meetings or whatever that goal is that person has. I'm going to demo to X number of people. Like they're all different types of goals, but having each person commit to 2 goals and they write their own is really powerful too. So I think that's something that it doesn't always have to be a sales or marketing goal, right? It could be other things that happen, right? I'm going to go learn about the newest, greatest software that's out there for XYZ. So I need to attend these 3 sessions. There could be so many goals you could set, but.
I think that's
Love that.
so cool. Yeah, because we forget that there's other parts to it than just selling and learning, and all that piece is a good, like, for the technical people that go, who you need in your booth, because I couldn't do a demo, or I could do a very high level demo that probably no one would be interested in, but having them there and having that balance where they can go learn stuff too, I think that that's a great thing. So moving on, we're already with 10 minutes left. This one, I told you guys, it's gonna fly by. So what if you had a crystal ball, what kind of trends do you see? Where do you see the future of in-person events going? We we saw them come back, and where do we see them moving over the upcoming year? Tiffany, do you have any thoughts?
I do definitely, and maybe it's a crystal ball, and I just want to manifest this because I hope it comes
Manifest.
to fruition for sure. But I'm gonna say shorter, shorter, shorter. I'm gonna say shorter in duration, the entire conferences as a whole. I think more sessions and sessions in shorter duration. I think that what I see, in pitching ideas to go to events and speak is there are a lot of people out there with great content to share. I don't think this community is shy at all in that category. And I think as people are coming in, they want to ingest, content in very small digestible bites. And I'll take it back to the socials. But, there's a reason that people get sucked into TikTok for hours. I'm in the puppy training TikTok right now, and I love a 3-minute video to tell me how he should stop biting me. So I really think and hope that the 4-day events can shrink to 3. I think it's a better budget for companies that are sponsoring. I think it's a better budget for those companies that are sending their crew and their team out there to learn. It keeps them in the office. or, it's not as many days out of office. So I think it can be efficient as it relates to the affordability element. I think it's more efficient as it relates to a little bit of the ADD going on in our world, being able to digest content. So I'm really hoping that we can just get a little bit tighter. I want to go and learn a ton of different nuggets. I don't really want to sit. I mean, let's be realistic, and even in the business world, everybody is pushing to move no more 60-minute meetings. Can we get this done in 30 minutes? Because we know at the end of that 30 minutes, do we still have them? Are they still engaged? Have they multitasked? How long ago did they tune out? Let's bring that into our event thinking. And I feel like we could be even more powerful and efficient going forward. So that would be maybe my manifestation and hope.
Hallelujah. I think we should all manifest that today. Share this podcast with everybody who is in the event planning. I think that's a really great point too, that we don't have a week to give anymore to in-person events. And we're not expected, we're still expected to keep doing our day-to-day while we're at these things now because we're so connected. If you want us to go to 10 a year, well, something's got to give. And I think by having them shorter and more precise, and maybe I'm manifesting now, or with my crystal ball, is that events will become more specialized. We're already seeing it in the industry, like specific dynamics events, or they have different tracks within these things, because people are going to these things looking for very specific knowledge or trainings and stuff like that. So that would be my crystal ball if I had to have one. Are there any other magicians, fortune tellers, and you guys, Jeremy, Angie, do you have anything to add before we close this off? Questions, comments?
I would echo and agree with what Tiffany was saying, and I surely hope that you're right, because that would be good for all of us. The other thing that I think is a rising trend is the emergence of regional opportunities. And so, no longer do you have to wait all year long to go to one place, where there are 6 different regionals spread throughout the year, and you can get to the one that's closest to you. So I think between those two things, we will see shorter convention times, and at least let's hope so.
Well, let's hope. Angie, any final thoughts?
I feel like it's just going to be so much AI. I wonder what that's going to do with in-person events. A lot of us are using it online and to do different things or to write different content, but what is it going to look like, and how is that going to take shape? Other than people obviously having sessions and talking and sharing about it, but what kind of experiences are people going to have that they can touch and feel and do in person? I remember way back when there was a trend. I don't know how many years ago it was, but when I was at Dynamic Communities, it was we tried to do some of the, I don't know what they're called. They have them silent discos, in some places. I think in Disney has it or something, but where everyone wears a headset and headphones, and then they go to a session, and you could actually have different sessions going on at the same time, but each person is consuming their own content. So things like that, I wonder what's going to happen with in-person events as it relates to AI. I don't know, but it'll be fun to see, experiential marketing, I guess.
Yeah, I think that'll definitely come into play. And I remember that they totally forgot about that until you reminded me. I'm like, oh yeah, you would turn your channel and you would turn your head and you'd be listening to different conferences. Terrible.
I don't think it really took off, but yes, it's something I saw someone share on a personal social account recently. I want to say they went to one like that, but it was more fun. It was a silent disco, and I think it was in Disney. But I just wonder what kind of trends like that are going to come out in the next few years.
Well, we'll be back next year. You guys can all come back next year and tell us what you saw and what's evolved and all that. And I wanted to thank you all for being here and sharing your wisdom with us. It's always fun and interesting to learn from others. And speaking of learning, we have our first paid training session with the one and only Amanda, who is amazing at LinkedIn content. I always learn so much when I just speak to her on one-to-one, and I'm like, wow, you should teach a class. And then, hey, here she is. So please take advantage of everything you want to know about LinkedIn ads. There is so much out there, and I think we think we know until we don't know. So I think even if you just attend to learn one or two tips, or you just want to benchmark, that's the other word of the day. I think that could be a great class for you to take. We're going to put it in the chat, or come visit us on our website. That was my shameless plug for today. Please join. I think it's going to be a great one, and it's only $79. Like, I think it's definitely worth the hour investment. And this is going to be on February 6th. So it's coming up, worthwhile, give it a chance. And then also, don't forget to sign up for our February chat, which we're going to be talking about top tools marketers love. That is always a great one where we learn. We all love our tools. We all love our tips. So bring the ones that you know, like come with your trusty pen to take down, or a screenshot, I guess. I don't really write anything anymore. But take notes. It's a great session. This one comes back every year, and that's on February 22nd. If you have missed any, it's okay. I'm only a little sad that you don't watch them live, but I get it. People have things that they do, like work. So you can watch them all on video. Come to our website, check them out. Sharing is caring. We want to build this community, and we are big believers in sharing our knowledge, and all boats float. So we hope you do the same. Thank you again, everyone. Thank you, Jeremy, Angie, Tiffany. It's been a lot of fun, and have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.